Iran issues a strong warning. Tensions in the Middle East have sharply intensified as Iran delivered a powerful warning directed toward Israel and its allies. Iranian officials stated that any further military actions against the country would not go unanswered, signaling that Tehran is prepared to respond with significant force if necessary. The warning reflects growing frustration within Iran's leadership, who believe that repeated strikes and pressure from Israel are attempts to weaken Iran's regional influence and military capabilities. Statements coming from officials connected to Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, emphasize that the country considers its sovereignty and security a red line that cannot be crossed. According to Iranian military commanders, the country has been strengthening its defensive and offensive capabilities for years, including missile systems, air defenses, and regional alliances. These capabilities are often described by Iranian leaders as part of a broader strategy designed to deter enemies and prevent direct attacks on Iranian territory. Officials have also pointed out that Iran possesses long-range missile technology capable of reaching targets far beyond its borders, which they argue acts as a powerful deterrent against any nation considering military action. The warning also included statements suggesting that if Israel launches further attacks, Iran may respond not only directly, but also through strategic pressure across the wider Middle East. Analysts believe this could involve various regional allies and armed groups that maintain ties with Iran. Such a scenario could expand the conflict across multiple fronts, increasing instability in already fragile areas. Military analysts have warned that this kind of escalation could quickly move beyond limited strikes and turn into a broader confrontation involving several countries. Iranian officials have also framed their warning as a message not just to Israel, but to the United States as well. Tehran believes Washington's political and military support for Israel plays a major role in shaping the conflict. Because of this, Iranian leaders have indicated that American military bases or assets in the region could become potential targets if Iran feels its national security is under direct threat. These statements have raised alarm among international observers, who fear that any direct clash involving U.S. forces could significantly widen the crisis. Within Iran, the government has used strong rhetoric to demonstrate unity and readiness. Military commanders have spoken publicly about the country's preparedness, emphasizing that Iran's armed forces are capable of defending the nation against external threats. State media has also highlighted military exercises and missile capabilities as a way of reinforcing the message that Iran is ready for any scenario. This messaging is intended not only for international audiences, but also for the domestic population, showing that the leadership is confident and determined in the face of rising tensions. At the same time, Iran's leadership continues to accuse Israel of attempting to destabilize the region through repeated military actions. Iranian officials argue that these operations risk pushing the Middle East into a larger conflict that could have severe consequences for global security and economic stability. As both sides exchange warnings and military actions increase, the situation remains highly volatile, with each new development adding more pressure to an already tense geopolitical environment. Israeli military operations increase. Over the past several days, military activity from Israel has intensified significantly, drawing global attention to the rapidly escalating situation in the Middle East. Israeli defense officials have reportedly authorized a series of strategic operations aimed at targeting locations believed to be connected with Iranian military infrastructure and regional influence. These operations are described as part of Israel's broader security doctrine, which focuses on preventing potential threats before they can develop into direct attacks against Israeli territory or citizens. According to analysts and regional observers, Israeli defense planners believe that Iran's growing military presence and influence across the Middle East represents one of the most serious, long-term threats to Israel's national security. Because of this perception, Israeli leadership has increasingly relied on preemptive military actions designed to disrupt supply networks, weaken military capabilities, and limit Iran's ability to expand its strategic reach in the region. Israeli officials argue that these operations are defensive in nature, even though they often involve cross-border strikes and covert operations. Much of this policy has been shaped by long-standing tensions between Israel and the Iranian government, which have intensified over issues such as missile development, regional alliances, and nuclear technology. Israel has repeatedly warned that it will not allow Iran to develop military capabilities that could threaten Israeli cities or military bases. Israeli leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, have publicly stated that Israel is prepared to take whatever measures are necessary to ensure the safety and security of the country. As a result, Israel has continued to strengthen its military readiness. The Israeli Air Force has reportedly increased patrols and reconnaissance flights across key areas, while advanced missile defense systems remain active to intercept potential threats. Military officials have also emphasized that Israel's defense strategy includes both offensive and defensive components, allowing the country to respond quickly to emerging threats while maintaining strong protection for its civilian population. Israeli operations are not limited only to direct strikes. Intelligence gathering, cyber operations, and strategic surveillance have also become important parts of Israel's broader security strategy. These efforts aim to monitor developments related to Iran's military planning and to identify any potential risks before they escalate into direct conflict. Israeli officials often argue that maintaining this level of vigilance is essential because the security environment in the Middle East can change rapidly. These military activities have also led to increased alert levels across Israeli defense forces. Air defense systems, such as the Iron Dome, remain deployed across several regions to protect against missile or rocket attacks. In addition, Israeli military units have conducted exercises designed to prepare for possible escalation scenarios. These exercises simulate a range of potential threats, including missile strikes, drone attacks, and coordinated assaults from multiple directions. At the same time, Israel continues to emphasize that its primary objective is deterrence rather than full-scale conflict. Israeli leaders frequently state that their actions are intended to prevent larger wars by stopping threats early. However, critics and analysts warn that repeated military operations increase the risk of miscalculation. Each strike or counterstrike raises the possibility that the situation could spiral into a broader confrontation involving multiple countries across the region. The growing frequency of Israeli operations has therefore become a central factor shaping the current crisis. As military movements increase and tensions remain high, every new development is closely watched by governments, analysts, and international organizations concerned about the possibility of further escalation in one of the world's most sensitive geopolitical regions. U.S. military on high alert. As tensions between Iran and Israel continue to rise, the United States has moved quickly to increase its military readiness across the Middle East. American defense officials have placed several forces on heightened alert, signaling that Washington is closely monitoring the situation and preparing for multiple possible scenarios. The goal of these measures is to protect U.S. personnel, maintain regional stability, and support allies if the conflict escalates further. Military analysts say the United States maintains a significant presence across the Middle East through bases, naval fleets, and Air Force installations located in several strategic countries. When regional tensions rise, these assets allow the U.S. military to respond quickly and project power across large distances. Recent reports suggest that American warships, surveillance aircraft, and advanced defense systems have been repositioned to ensure rapid response capability if needed. A key part of this military posture involves the United States Department of Defense, which coordinates strategic deployments and oversees operations in global hotspots. Pentagon officials have stated that the increased readiness is intended as a deterrent, sending a clear message that the United States is prepared to defend its interests and protect allied nations in the region. This kind of military signaling is often used to discourage potential attacks or aggressive actions by demonstrating strength and preparedness. The U.S. Navy also plays a major role in this heightened alert. American naval forces regularly patrol critical waterways in the Middle East, including areas close to important shipping routes that carry a large portion of the world's energy supply. Aircraft carriers, guided missile destroyers, and surveillance ships allow the United States to monitor activities at sea and respond to emerging threats quickly. These deployments are especially important in areas where tensions could disrupt international trade or energy shipments. In addition to naval forces, the U.S. Air Force has increased its surveillance and reconnaissance activities. Advanced aircraft are capable of monitoring large areas of territory, tracking missile launches, and gathering intelligence about military movements. These missions provide valuable information that helps military planners understand what is happening on the ground and in the air. Intelligence gathered from these operations allows the United States to make rapid decisions in response to developing situations. American military officials have also been working closely with regional allies to coordinate defense strategies. Countries that host U.S. bases or cooperate with American forces often participate in joint exercises, intelligence sharing, and defensive planning. These partnerships are designed to ensure that allied forces can operate together effectively if the security situation deteriorates. Such coordination helps strengthen regional defense networks and allows faster responses during crises. Political leaders in Washington have also emphasized that the purpose of these military preparations is primarily defensive. U.S. officials frequently stress that the country does not seek a wider war, but must remain ready to protect its personnel and interests. Because thousands of American troops are stationed across the Middle East, the United States must constantly evaluate potential risks and adjust its military posture accordingly. The heightened alert status also reflects concerns that a conflict between Iran and Israel could quickly spread beyond two countries. If attacks were to threaten U.S. forces, shipping routes, or allied nations, the United States could be drawn deeper into the crisis. This possibility is one of the reasons why American military commanders continue to monitor developments closely while maintaining a strong presence throughout the region. Risk of regional war. One of the biggest concerns surrounding the rising tensions between Iran and Israel is the possibility that the conflict could expand beyond the borders of the two countries and turn into a much larger regional war. The Middle East is already a complex region with many political rivalries, alliances, and armed groups operating across different countries. Because of this complicated landscape, even a limited military clash has the potential to trigger reactions from multiple sides, pulling additional nations and organizations into the conflict. Military analysts often describe the Middle East as a network of interconnected conflicts, where tensions in one area can quickly spread to neighboring countries. Iran, for example, has built strong relationships with several armed groups and political movements across the region. These groups operate in places such as Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, and many of them have publicly stated that they would support Iran if a large-scale confrontation with Israel were to occur. One of the most powerful of these groups is Hezbollah, based in Lebanon, which possesses a large arsenal of rockets and missiles capable of reaching deep into Israeli territory. If a conflict between Iran and Israel were to intensify, these allied groups could become involved by launching attacks, opening new battlefronts, or targeting military installations connected to Israel and its partners. This would significantly increase the scale of the conflict and make it far more difficult to control. Instead of a direct confrontation between two countries, the situation could evolve into a multi-front war involving several states and non-state actors spread across different parts of the Middle East. Another factor that raises the risk of a wider war is the presence of foreign military forces in the region. The United States maintains bases, naval fleets, and thousands of troops stationed in multiple Middle Eastern countries. If any attacks were directed toward these forces, the United States could become more directly involved in military operations. This possibility increases the stakes of every decision made by leaders in Tehran, Tel Aviv, and Washington, because a single strike or miscalculation could draw powerful global actors into the conflict. Regional rivalries also play a major role in shaping the situation. Several countries in the Middle East view Iran's growing influence with concern and maintain their own security partnerships with Western nations. If hostilities escalate, these states could be forced to choose sides or increase their own military activities to protect their interests. This could create a chain reaction where multiple countries mobilize their forces, making the situation increasingly volatile and difficult to de-escalate. Another danger lies in the possibility of miscommunication or misunderstanding between opposing forces. In tense environments where aircraft, naval ships, and missile systems are operating close to one another, even a small mistake could trigger an unintended confrontation. History has shown that conflicts sometimes begin not through planned decisions, but through accidents or misinterpretations during periods of high tension. Military commanders therefore remain extremely cautious, knowing that the margin for error becomes very small when forces are already on high alert. The potential expansion of the conflict would also create humanitarian and economic challenges across the region. Civilian populations living near conflict zones could face displacement, infrastructure damage, and disruption of daily life. Trade routes, transportation systems, and energy facilities might also be affected, causing economic instability in countries that rely heavily on regional commerce and oil exports. These broader consequences are one of the reasons why international organizations and global leaders continue urging restraint from all sides involved in the crisis. Global economic impact. The rising tensions between Iran and Israel are not only a military and political issue, they also carry serious consequences for the global economy. Whenever instability increases in the Middle East, financial markets around the world react quickly because the region plays a crucial role in global energy production and international trade. Investors, governments, and energy companies closely monitor every development, knowing that even small disruptions in this region can affect economies thousands of miles away. One of the biggest economic concerns centers on oil supply. The Middle East produces a large percentage of the world's crude oil, and several major energy exporters operate in the region. If military conflict threatens oil facilities, pipelines, or shipping routes, global energy supplies can quickly become unstable. When uncertainty rises, oil prices often surge because traders anticipate possible shortages. Higher oil prices can then lead to increased costs for transportation, manufacturing, and electricity production in many countries. A particularly critical location in this situation is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway that connects the Persian Gulf to international oceans. This route is considered one of the most important energy corridors in the world, as a significant portion of global oil exports passes through it every day. If tensions escalate to the point where shipping through this strait becomes unsafe, it could interrupt the flow of oil to global markets. Even the possibility of disruption in this route can cause energy prices to rise sharply. Shipping companies and international logistics networks also feel the pressure when regional conflicts intensify. Cargo ships, oil tankers, and commercial vessels often travel through Middle Eastern waters to reach major ports in Asia, Europe, and other regions. When military threats increase, shipping companies may reroute their vessels to avoid danger zones. These longer routes increase transportation costs and delay deliveries, which can affect global supply chains and trade. Financial markets around the world also respond to rising geopolitical risks. Stock markets sometimes experience volatility as investors react to uncertainty about energy prices, political stability, and the possibility of wider conflict. Businesses that depend heavily on oil, fuel, or international shipping may see their costs increase rapidly, which can influence product prices and economic growth. Economists often warn that prolonged instability in energy-producing regions can slow down global economic activity. Another important factor is how governments respond to economic pressure caused by conflict. Countries that rely heavily on imported energy may need to adjust their policies, increase fuel reserves, or search for alternative suppliers. These adjustments can place additional strain on national budgets and economic planning. At the same time, countries that export oil might see temporary financial gains from rising prices, although long-term instability can also threaten their production and infrastructure. The interconnected nature of the modern global economy means that events in one region can quickly influence markets around the world. Rising fuel costs can increase airline ticket prices, shipping costs, and even the price of everyday goods in supermarkets. Because of this, economic experts closely track political and military developments in the Middle East, recognizing that the stability of the region is closely linked to global economic balance and energy security. Diplomatic pressure growing. As tensions between Iran and Israel continue to rise, diplomatic pressure from the international community has increased significantly. Governments, global organizations, and political leaders around the world are closely monitoring the situation and urging both sides to avoid actions that could escalate the conflict further. In situations where military tensions grow rapidly, diplomacy becomes one of the most important tools for preventing a larger war and maintaining stability in a sensitive region like the Middle East. Many international leaders have emphasized the importance of dialogue and negotiation rather than confrontation. Diplomatic channels are often used behind the scenes during crises, allowing officials from different countries to communicate directly and attempt to reduce misunderstandings. These communications can include emergency meetings, special envoys, and negotiations facilitated by neutral countries that seek to calm the situation before it turns into open conflict. Global institutions such as the United Nations also play a major role in these diplomatic efforts. The organization frequently calls for restraint and encourages peaceful solutions when international disputes threaten global stability. Through discussions in the United Nations Security Council, member countries often debate possible resolutions, ceasefire proposals, or diplomatic initiatives aimed at preventing further escalation. Although political disagreements sometimes make it difficult to reach consensus, these discussions help keep international attention focused on the crisis. Several world powers have also been actively involved in trying to reduce tensions through diplomatic engagement. Countries that maintain relationships with both Iran and Israel sometimes act as intermediaries, helping to pass messages or propose compromises. This type of mediation can be important because it provides a way for opposing sides to communicate indirectly without appearing to make political concessions publicly. Another important part of diplomatic pressure involves economic and political influence. Some governments use sanctions, negotiations, or strategic partnerships to encourage restraint from the parties involved in the conflict. These measures are often intended to create incentives for peaceful behavior, while discouraging actions that could destabilize the region further. Diplomatic pressure can also come in the form of international public statements, where world leaders openly call for calm and cooperation. In addition to government efforts, international humanitarian organizations and regional alliances have also expressed concern about the potential consequences of escalating violence. These groups often warn that military conflict could lead to humanitarian crises, displacement of civilians, and damage to essential infrastructure. Their statements add another layer of pressure on political leaders to consider the broader human impact of their decisions. The growing diplomatic activity surrounding the crisis reflects the seriousness of the situation. When multiple countries and organizations become involved in efforts to calm tensions, it often signals that the international community recognizes the potential for serious consequences if the conflict continues to escalate. As negotiations, discussions, and diplomatic messages continue, governments around the world remain focused on finding ways to reduce the risk of further confrontation in the region.